lunch session. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our post-lunch session featuring a special address on democracy and WikiLeaks, the trickle-down effect by Mr. Julian Assange, founder and editor-in-chief of WikiLeaks. Talking to Mr. Assange will be Mr. Veer Sanghvi, advisor, HD Media. He's already there. He's already there. He's waited. So you can just check sound.
Okay.
If he can hear you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I think I'm told our link is up, so we should have Mr. Yes, we do indeed have Mr. Assange up. Welcome, Mr. Assange. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Delhi.
You can hear. All right, great. I don't know. Can you actually see the audience? Do you have a visual picture as well?
Well, at the moment I can see you, but
all right,
tucked away every now
I'm
and
sure
then.
you'll see something prettier quite soon. What we'll do is, after you finish speaking, I'll throw this open to the audience, and I'll allow them to ask you as many questions as they like. Please, welcome to the Hindustan Times Summit, and please feel free to start.
Thank you. So, some of you might be wondering about these symbols that are behind me. So this is not me advertising these wretched companies. Rather, it is a statement about the operation of these companies in the world. So this is Visa, MasterCard, PayPal and the Bank of America, which since the 7th of December last year have been engaged in an extrajudicial, unlawful banking blockade against our organization. And they are quite an interesting example of a new phenomenon, which is the collapse of the rule of law in Western states. And India should be proud of its developing democracy and some elements of its legislation, which it is taking seriously culturally, even though the corruption within Indian departments and Indian business is of course still tremendous. Culturally, the values of Indian society are good and will reform India, I believe, in a manner the opposite to which the West is collapsing. Back in December last year, when we first started releasing 251,000 US diplomatic cables, revealing how to run the United States empire, the internal history of the US empire in the past 10 years. We showed not only what US interests were and how it applied pressure for its corporations and those close to power within Washington around the world, including India. We showed the intelligence that the United States Diplomatic Service gathered from various states that were trying to impress it. And that, of course, includes India, and many of you will remember how Parliament walked out 8 times over some of the revelations that we worked on with the Hindu. But I want to talk about something that is much bigger than just our battle with the United States and information which has come out about that. Of course, we never intended to focus on the United States, but rather our discovery in looking at censorship and concealed information around the world was that about 50% of all of it came from the United States. And that's not because the United States is filled with bad people. Rather, it is just the opposite, that within US institutions there is a plurality of voices, and many people there disagree with the tendencies that have developed over the last 10 years to lead those institutions in a particular direction. Looking at the diplomatic cables from various nations and other work that I have done, I see that the world is moving to the development of a new transnational elite, a transnational state where the elites of various countries are lifting off from their democratic base and even from their economic or industrial base and merging with each other. In the diplomatic cables, we see in India, as well as in other countries, individuals going into US embassies for individual preferment, not representing really their party, not representing India, but actually representing themselves and trying to do deals to lift themselves up by joining a new transnational elite. And I see this development of a transnational elite as actually the greatest threat we have as an international civilization. And globalization means we are developing into an international civilization. And to be a little bit cynical, of course, this leadership conference, we could be cynical about it and say that actually it's a place for people who want to join that international elite to meet each other and in fact join it. For the local elite of India to come together with international elite patronage and live together. And of course, I am not against the reality that we all strive for, which is to be in a position where we can act according to our values as best we can, and to do that we need good friends and good business partners and trustworthy people all over the world. All of us strive to do that. But we should stop and look back at what is happening with a new international system that is developing, an international system of patronage, not of the rule of law. When I worked on both exposing Guantanamo Bay, and we released back in 2007 the various manuals for Guantanamo Bay, documenting the standardized procedures for torture and detainment within that system, on the one hand, and on the other hand, at offshore banking and asset hiding and smuggling of money through the Cayman Islands and Swiss banks. I actually saw that these were twin pillars of the collapse of the rule of law. In the one hand, with Swiss banking and offshore holdings, it is to take money from the express values and democratic control within a large populous nation state like the United States or like India or like China, and move it offshore to a small island whose laws can be influenced by elite economics or elite patronage. The system of laws set up to conceal the flow of assets, and then take them out, of course, out of those jurisdictions. No one actually goes and moves to the Cayman Islands or lives in the Cayman Islands, but to wash that money through the Cayman Islands. Similarly, Guantanamo Bay and CIA black sites in Poland and other countries are designed to take human beings outside of the rule of law, even in the United States, take them outside of the United States rule of law and pass them through a system where they can be washed of the rule of law, where people can be laundered outside the rule of law and placed into another system, where there is no effective redress for individual suffering. What can we do about that system? Just yesterday, together with the Hindu and the Washington Post and a number of other important groups such as Privacy International, WikiLeaks released over 287 files documenting the international surveillance industry, and you'll see in the Hindu and some other Indian newspapers this morning, more details on that and the two Indian companies involved. We're talking there about a shadow industry which operates hand in hand with intelligence agencies to suck up information from around the world and use it to inform decisions, not by merely democratic political leadership, but by all those who are close to those intelligence agencies and close to those companies. Of course, we all understand the benefits of intercepting the LTTE or dealing with Pakistan and various forms of terrorism or mafia-related crime. But what we're talking about here is the interception of entire nations intentionally by Western companies or by using equipment manufactured by Western companies and storing permanently, for example, all telephone calls that have emanated from a country. So companies such as Vastec in South Africa proudly brag in their confidential sales pitches to intelligence agencies how they can store literally billions of hours of telephone calls. Others, such as the French-based firm Amisys, brag how they can not only store and analyze telephone calls, billions of hours, the entire content of a nation, and that is the phrase used, but also internet traffic, email, Gmail, etc., and bring it all together. So people have often said in relation to our work that we are entering into an age of transparency. Well, they are right. We are entering into an age of transparency, but it's an age of transparency of the general population, of everyone in this room, of everyone, almost everyone, in a developed nation, of their inner life, their business life, their family and friends, taking that information and giving it to extremely powerful groups that are unaccountable, that are secretive, that exchange information with other powerful groups in return for favors. That is the age of transparency that we're entering into. It's a transparency up from culturally and democratically accountable interests that are part of the public historical record into secret systems run by transnational surveillance elites. I think that is an incredibly disturbing trend. In the information that we have revealed over the past several years, of course we have shown some of that system, and people have said that that reflects the new age of transparency down, which is holding these intelligence agencies and other security elites to democratic account. No, I do not see that at all. Rather, I see that there is such a vast collection system that pulling information in and storing it and centralizing it, that a small fraction of this information is able to trickle out. And what we have been publishing is this small fraction of the information. But let us not be fooled. The information coming out to the public is, yes, in absolute terms, more than ever before. But in relative terms, which is what is important, it is vastly less than ever before. The National Security Agency just broke ground on a $1.5 billion data storage facility in Utah. It has football fields of hard drives collecting permanently communications that have been intercepted by the United States. Nearly all telecommunications traffic from Latin America passes through the United States on its way to India and on its way to Europe. Nearly all telecommunications traffic from India, emails, voice calls and so on, to Europe do not go up the